Welcome everyone in this new episode of the Monthly Dev. We have so many people in the chat already. I'll try to list all of you. And today we'll talk about soft skills or human skills, if you want to call it like that, and finding a job in tech. So very, very important topics, I would say. We have top class speakers as usual, Nerando, Danny, and Bekah. And how are you? How are you? Sound check.
All good. How's everybody?
I'm here.
Doing well. Great to be here.
Perfect. Okay, so today we have, as usual, 1 hour and a half. You'll stay with us, and we have interesting topics and also formats. I think that with Danny and Nerando, we'll go with a more freestyle and interaction with the chat. So get ready to interact a lot with both of them. Hello, everyone. Where are you from? Where are you typing from? I see many people excited, of course. This is a very important topic. I want really you to smash the like button, share this video as much as possible. Nice. So just before we started doing this like last month, but I would like to ask the speakers if you know daily.dev. You can say whatever you want, but if you ever tried it, if you use it, if you like it or not. Of course, if you say some bad things, we will not reuse it.
I mean, it's my homepage. You know, if I open my Google Chrome, it's the first thing that I see. So, it's useful at times. You know, I mean, I've had it now over a year, so I use it.
I mean, it's as Danny said, it's my homepage. I use it as a temperature check for what's out there, what's going on. Give me something new I should learn. Who was it? I think Angie was the person who tweeted out about it, and I'm like, okay, if Angie said so, let's go look into it. And then all the people who I like reading articles from, and all the people who I don't like reading articles from are there. So good stuff.
Yeah, what I really like about daily.dev is their squads. So I belong to a couple of squads, so I get to see what other people in my network are reading. And I also really appreciate that whenever any of my blog posts makes it onto daily.dev, there's a huge boost, and I see a lot more readership with that. So it's great both from the personal aspect of collaborating with other people through reading and also having a boost in my own writing.
Yeah, thank you so much. We call it the daily.dev effect. Once you understand exactly how it works, it's hard to get back, I will say. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing your point of view about daily.dev. We already have 50 people, but we want more. Hi, everyone. We have someone from Montreal, Poland, Portugal. It's always excited like when we have like so many people from all over the world. So let's get started because we have many presentations and many talks. So I'm about to start with Nerando, and for Danny and Bekah, see you later. Okay, bye-bye. Let me remove Danny and Bekah. So Nerando, how are you? How is it going? We met last year, but there were so many people at Render TL that now I recognize you. So how are you? Please introduce yourself.
I'm good. So my name is Nerando Johnson. My handle is Nerajno, so that's Nerajno. I am currently in the position of a junior front-end engineer in Vue, doing Vue at Nexcor. Shout out to the crew there, my boss Fimian, and I get to work with Abby Perini, which anybody knows on daily.dev is one of the top writers, and her articles are phenomenal, and I envy her for her writing ability all the time. So that's what I've been doing so far. Got into code through Free Code Camp. I'm one of the organizers here in Atlanta. We've done a hackathon. When hackathon seasons were a thing. Went to boot camp here in Atlanta before COVID, so I've done the whole Flatiron physical thing. But today, through Insights, I'll be speaking on navigating the job hunt from my perspective and what I've learned a year hunting a job. So yeah.
And I really love this. I'm always a huge fan of like real and practical like experiences, because everyone, we are on the internet, everybody could give tips on anyone. I could give tips about makeup if I want with ChatGPT. I could give tips on something that I know nothing, but I would like in this case to really know more about your experience, and because I think this is the best way to see what might work also for people in the audience. So feel free to drop all the questions you want that are relevant to this topic. And so, Nerando, how would you like to start to make this conversation? Your title and your topic is like tips from a year-long job hunt, right?
All right. So I have 9 points, but along the way, if the chat comes up with something I'd like to address, I will speak to them. Somebody go and drop something, you go and show me the question and I can address it. Cool? Hey, Nick, what's up? So here's the trick. So I break down the whole conversation into like 9 topics. So we got understanding the job hunt. Job hunt 2022 to 2020. Well, job hunt 2023 to 2024 is a different job hunt from 2019 to like 2022. 2 different environments. Cool. We got the self-audit, we got networking, we got studying, we got building stuff, we got strategy and planning how you're going to do stuff. We got leadership skills. Like, people don't think that in job hunting you have to build your leadership skill, but that's also a component of it. We got blind optimism, tenacity and grit. I've gone through 300-400 thank yous but no thank yous. I've gone through my 6-7 final rounds, even though I know I was the right fit according to based on what they need, and they're like, yeah, we found somebody else. Sometimes they freeze budget, sometimes they went with somebody else, sometimes they went inside. Why would you advertise an outside position when you have inside people? I don't know, but that's how it goes. You got the humble confidence, like tenacity, that grit. So that's how I break it down. Cool?
Nice. Thank you, Nerando. Just a great start. I think we already have a question. We call it like the icebreaker question, because usually when we can start getting some of them, then we have too many questions. So it will be harder to keep going. Is it possible to get a job without hackathon, only relying on project?
Yes, but the project has to be specific in a specific way. So let's break down how. Let's start. Somebody wanted to start at the middle, so let's start at the middle. So this falls under building solutions. Your project, and this has been said by others, so I'm going to reiterate it. Your project should be a solution to a problem that you can speak about and speak to. It should align with the frameworks and or code languages that you know, to a competent level that it demonstrates that I understand the fundamentals and the middle part of it. I speak with my hands, I'm sorry. So it should be documented, it should be live, it should be tested. So we are no longer at the place where you can demonstrate that, hey, I can build something, I can speak to it. You also have to speak to the thing of, hey, I understand the whole 9 yards of the software engineering process. So testing is now a part of it. So yes, you should do all of that. The rule I go by now is the rule of 3s. If you are building out a portfolio, you have 3 projects that are from start to finished. The MVP is done. It is something you would be proud to show. It is documented. It is live. It is tested. It is built in such a way that it's a part of the process. 2 weeks ago, I was taught by Jerome Hardaway about using GitHub projects to demonstrate the workflow of how you build a project. Later on, I'll probably drop it in daily.dev or send it to you, finding those links of how he spoke about it, because I think I have a recording somewhere or a link to how he speaks to it. So that's the project questions out of the way. My next move would be understanding the job hunt. So we've covered the building part. So let's go to understanding the job hunt. Job hunting now is a strategy. Job hunting is a whole job. Taylor from Taylor Disney, he says that getting a job is a whole job by itself. Cool. So you have to strategize. What do you want? What skills you have? What can you speak to? Do not do the whole shotgun thing. It may work, but it's a wasted effort. So from notes point of view, you got researching, you got sending out application. So we have enough AI tools to help us to take a job description, summarize it, match it to what your resume may entail to see how much match you have. We know prompting enough to go, based on what I have, can you give me the approximation to how much percentage does this, which what I have matches the job I'm searching for? Cool. And then you can go, okay, cool, this is a good position. 2 years ago, you could use the 60% mark of saying, if I have 60%, I can apply for this job. You can still do it, but to improve your chances, I personally suggest that you go for between 70 to 80. So if I can do 70 to 80% of this, go for it. If I can do 60% of it and I have a good gut feeling, still go for it, because you never know. But you have to break down your strategies more. I also say track your job applications. Every single one of them. You can use Notion, you can use Trello, you can use, like, those tools have enough. There's enough templates outside to go, this resume with this cover letter was sent to this job at this time. Cool. You can do the follow-ups. We have enough resources around us to teach us how to do this. So you do the follow-up 2 weeks later. If nothing, a week later. If nothing, you put on maybe. So you may hear from them, you may never hear from them, but you know where your effort went. We are now at the stage where we're going through, you get the introduction, you send follow-up thank yous. Simple thank you. Thank you for, I appreciate the feedback, so on and so forth. Because when you get to deal with a person, you have to approach them as a person. Again, in tech, we know the whole thing is crappy. We know. But if we want better, we have to do better. So treat the people like people. It's going to be an 80-20 rule. 80% are going to give you bleh, but the other 20% are going to give you what you need. I have had people who have interviewed with that and never got the job, that they have been good mentors to me outside because I dealt with them like they are people. Make sense?
Yes, it is.
All right. Self-auditing. If you are, I'm looking at questions, see if there's
We
anything.
have one more. But I don't know if you want to finish the concept, but we have one. Yep.
Let me run through self-auditing and we'll take the question. Self-auditing. What are you good at? You have to have an honest conversation with yourself about, what am I really good at? And then Ayu is here. You have to have a really good question about what are you really good at? So are your skills really good at front end? Are your skills really good at back end? Are you a junior? Did the job hunt water your skills down because you've been trying to hunt a job, so you're not really that good as you were before because you're out of practice building all the time? So that's a whole nother ball game. So figure out what you're really good at. Then you apply according to the skills you have. If you are not very good at self-auditing, you can say to a friend or a mentor or somebody who you used to work with, hey, what do you think I'm good at? Don't take their feedback personal, but take it personal enough to grow. That will help you better go, okay, cool. This comes off my resume. That stays on my resume. I can demonstrate knowledge in this. I can demonstrate knowledge in that. I've built something with this. I can speak to that. Because some of us, we're not honest enough with ourselves. Because I've had those moments. I've been like, I know this, I know that, I know that. And then somebody goes, come here, let's talk. Build me something with this. And I'm like, I'm pulling for parts. He goes, you're competent in this, but you're not excellent in it. So you have the self-auditing thing where you have the conversation. Because then you can build upon what you don't know. Cool?
Yep.
All right, cool.
Yes.
Give me the question.
Okay, we have many. Let's get these three questions just to start, just to warm up. Recap data structure and algorithm concepts before interviews and job searches. We know that we have, in some interviews, we have this.
I am biased against DSAs, but I will say this. You have one method that somebody used that I know of is that they do leak code or whatever mechanism you use, and they'd pull the common one. So you have like good 70 questions, and they'd master 40 and understand how to do some more. Based on what, after you do the self-audit, you know which positions you're going after. Do they require heavy DSAs? If they do, you go and you study accordingly. If they don't, you still study, but not as much. You can use there are a variety of places that have lists of the most commonly used ones. As somebody said to me, demonstrated knowledge is the best way of knowing that you know stuff. So do them, practice them, teach them, or blog about them. The whole building public thing that I'm still working on personally, or learning in public thing, because it's a cultural thing for me to like figure out what you're doing, then show people. But now I'm walking towards that. So that's how I'd approach the essays. What you got next?
Thank you so much. Great answer. Let's see. Yash, I wanted to know where I have built projects, but I'm not sure which type of projects are checked by interviewers. Can you suggest some backend projects, as my interest lies mostly in backend?
Okay, I'm going to give you based on my knowledge. If you're mostly backend, you're API. You're an API guy. So you're going to build accordingly, or you're going to find a list of common backend projects based on your framework, knowledge, skill base, and build them. Go from introductory to intermediary. There's a ton load of ideas, but based on what you got. You didn't give me enough field to figure out. So if you're a food guy, you build a food API, or you build with a food API for something. You do a DB that can give you something random, simple on the front end, but you demonstrate based on a job description how you would build out a solution to an actual problem. I like food, so I'm always going to build food-based stuff or build people-based stuff. That's just how my brain works. I'm a former educator, so I'd work around stuff like that. It depends on stuff like that. What else we got?
We have two same questions, and also Danny is helping in the chat. Thank you, Danny. It's basically the same. What about fresher? We don't have experience. What about fresher? We don't have experience.
I love the fact that from the South Asian continent, people call people without experience freshers, because when I went to college, they call us freshers in the West Indies. So this is a whole new learning concept for me. All right, without experience. We have changed how we make software now. So open source software, a lot of it is there. No problem. So I would say build stuff around what you know based on things that are happening online. So you have a base framework. What does a good project look like? Document your process. So break it down, build it, write tests for it. You can ask questions online. We have online communities now that you can get feedback. So you build projects based on that. And when you build up enough courage or ask enough, Free Code Camp is one of them places that you can go and ask for help. Find an open source project that you like and go contribute to it. That is technically organizational, experience, because you have to work with a team. You have to work with Git. You have to work with a specific framework and or language. You have to build a solution to a problem. You have to show online that you can push a solution. Most good open source projects have tests built in, so you have to pass the tests. And you have to understand communication and everything. So that is professional experience. There's also a couple of sites online that speaks to contributing or donating parts of your time from a technical perspective. I know Catch a Fire used to be one of them, where you just sign up for a project and help them build a solution to an actual problem. So that would get you experience. And like Free Code Camp around the world, that's my thing. That's enough. To go, you got open sourced. You got a couple of other places that will give you professional experience. And then you learn to sell your experience of me. This is what I know. This is what I can do. Here's the demonstrated results. And that's my professional experience so far. But it's building. All it is building and getting the experience. All right, what else we got?
Nice, thanks.
You're
So
welcome.
I think we don't we can keep going if you have
All right, cool.
you have more tips. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So we got studying. Retooling or not our field of software engineering, software development, computer science, it keeps doing this. It keeps growing. So at any one time, you're going to have to, during your job hunt, either double down. Somebody once said to me that you double down on the language you know. So you go, if you're a JavaScript person, you go as deep as you can to understand the fundamentals 5 different ways. So that's technically. Studying may also include, so that's knowing your language, knowing your framework or frameworks. Then there is building stuff in studying. So, hey, I get this. How do I know that I get this? Let's go build something or speak to somebody about it. Behavioral studying is also understanding how to pass an interview, because whether you like it or not, interviews are basically people tests. I like this person. Does this person fit in this place that I'd like to fulfill a specific need? So figure out how to do that. If you're not good at it, you learn to walk by practice. And if you say, hey, I'm not good, you weren't good at walking either, so you can learn. Cool?
Yes. And I just want to add that usually the goal of the recruiter is to hire you, not to reject you.
There you go. Somebody gets it. So if you got selected, you're good enough to do the interview. That's it. Do your best you can on the interview, prepare for it, and go through the interview. That's it. Then tell them thank you, and you wait. Go do something else. Go do another interview. But your job is to be the best version of yourself for it. Prepare as much as you can. Let's see. Lifelong skills. Keep learning. Make time. I'm currently trying to figure out how to do an 8-4, which is the average 8 months of the year. I'm either taking an hour a day, like this thing behind me you see here is me figuring out how much learning sessions I need to do to have a rhythm. So you keep learning, give yourself breaks, learn how to learn. There's this course I did it before. There's this course called Learning How to Learn. I got it from Coursera. If you have the time, it's a free course. Go learn how you learn. Cool? And you keep going. So that's it. We got planning and strategy. Break down your week. You got, if you're going to job hunt 5 days a week, understand the Monday rush. So you may have to come in on Sunday night and apply for specific positions, because on Monday morning or Monday at 11, emails are read. So you're on top of the list. Understand how to send an email that it catches an attention. Understand how to upload stuff that it catches attention. Use email trackers to track your email to see if they've been read or opened. So you got a physical person because something has to read it. Cool. What else we got? I got one more here. It slipped out of my head, so I'm looking for it. All right. Time is a forward-moving, limited resource. Always manage your time when it comes to this job hunting thing, or you will get burnt out, because you'll keep going. So when is your energy the most to do applications? When is your energy the most to do certain things? Plan your whole time so hey, I gotta go do this job hunt thing for 6 hours this day because I'm out of the career job I want, but I have a part-time job I gotta go do. So I know I got 6 hours to do this, then I gotta do something else. Or I'm doing this for the whole 8, but I take a break, I take a walk. If I have children, I go look at the children. If I have house chores, I go look at the house chores. But this is a job. Make sense?
Yes, it does. Yes, it's very important to also make practice. I also liked what you said before, like getting a job is actually a job. This is why so many people, they have maybe a great technical experience, and then they basically understand. Then they have to learn how to get a job, like the whole interview process. So yeah.
I think Bekah just put something there saying that I find the thing that takes longer than you anticipate. I would go with something called the rule of thirds, which is everything's going to take 30% longer. Just what it is. Everything. I learned that when it comes to like learning from tutorials. If the tutorial is 10 hours long, it's going to take 30 hours to understand it. And if you're going to build and write, add another 30% to it. So strategize and plan. Under planning, I would also do having accountability partners. So your community is important. So somebody would go, hey, this is a stand. You still have stand-ups. There's variety of places that you can join that they have a daily stand-up. This is what we're going to do for there. This is and you go through. Like for me, one of the reasons I keep pushing, keep going, Bekah is one of the persons that she comes in on virtual coffee or she goes online. I'm going to do this week. And I'm like, show off. And she's going to make it happen. After a while, because this is your community, you have to push to another level because they are doing best and they want the best for you. And in order for you to do what you need to do, you need to push. So your community is important to get you to where you need to go. I am almost done. Networking. So developers used to be introverts, but being a developer in a job market that's constantly shifting, somebody quoted it as saying that you have to be a developer advocate for yourself. That's what you are. Do not only network when you don't have a job. Let me say this once more because I've seen it long enough. Do not only network when you don't have a job. The community still needs you when you have a job. Because if people keeps going, the only time we see him or her is when they need a job. You will not be viewed as a genuine person. It is what it is. Help out. Network. I would say, like, I have friends in the tech community that the only reason why we talk is that we are all teachers. We don't talk about anything technical. I've seen my friends who are musicians that they jam together. I've seen my friends who we all worked in food service that we talk because we are actual friends. We talk to people. We help each other. We go to events together. We go learn something. We sit down and talk to each other on Twitter or on Discord, or we watch our friends' Twitch streams, or we go to networking events or technical conference events. But you go out. It's a thing. It's like doctors keep having to read articles to stay up to date. You network for the same thing. Your friend is doing something, you go learn something you've never heard. You are having a tech event that it's not in your language. My friend who was former lead for Freecode Camp called Christopher Nesti, she said to me that I was just understanding JavaScript. She says, come go to this React thing with me. I had no clue what React was. I went. When I was learning React a year later, everything clicked. So go to places, talk to people, because people have the connections to the job you want. And please stay networked before you need help. Make sense?
I love this one. It's like always take care about your relationship or your friendships,
Yep.
even if you're engaged, right?
Yes, that is true. All right.
Yes. Otherwise, you'd have to start from scratch again, and yes. So I really loved this one. Yes, and about introverts, of course. Even people who are introverts, they get hired, they get engaged. Otherwise, we would be extinct like 100,000 years ago. So it means that there is still hope, even if you are introvert. But of course, just different skills. But we need to set priorities, of course.
Let's see. I got two
nice.
more.
Two more. Let's go.
Yeah, I got
Let's go
with
them. Yeah.
Originally I had 7. I threw this out to my community, say I'm going to give a talk, and they gave me 2 more that I love. They said, you have to have blind optimism, tenacity, and grit. Again, blind optimism, tenacity, and grit. Okay. You have to believe that this is going to work. That's it. Then you have to keep working at it. It's one of them things where it's you only need yes. You only need one yes. So if your click is going to go, I'm going to go 100 times, then I'm going to quit. No, you keep going because this is something you want, because this is something you believe in. Cool? It's your career. It's what you do. It's a big part of you. It's not all of you, but it's a big part of you. Grit. Grinding when you don't feel like it. Doing it when you don't want to. So it's the 5 o'clock. Danny introduced me to 4 a.m. wake-ups. My body naturally pops up at 4 o'clock, 4:30 to be precise, before my alarm. I do not like it, but I realize why it's important. And somebody else, Danny being the example, has demonstrated the results. I'm normally 6. Danny said it, and then what's his name? One of the basketballers said that if you get up early in the morning, you have 2 hours in the day that nobody else has. True. So you keep going. They also said to me from the group about you keep going regardless of setbacks. You take the feedbacks from the failed interviews that you didn't do. You push out your projects. I'm saying this, and I know it's going to hold me accountable. You build in public because then somebody can help you, because even though you say, hey, this is not good enough and this is not good enough quality of what I want to represent of myself, you take it and you learn from it and you keep going. You ask for feedback. Again, let me say this one more time. You ask for feedback. If nobody heard me in the back, you ask for feedback because you can grow based on the feedback you've been given. Make sense?
It does. It does. I also loved the fact of doing things even if you are not likely to do it. It's very similar to going to the gym or exercise. Once you start, yeah.
I'm here. My friends know I have no problem talking anywhere. If you had told me that this is where I'm going, this is where I'm going to end up speaking this morning, a couple months ago, when somebody asked me how to do it, I'd tell them no. I'm here anyway. So, blind optimism. Last but not least, humble confidence. 2 words that kind of sound juxtaposition or they clash against each other, but you have to believe you, because of the demonstrated knowledge you have and growth and the ability to apply it, you have to be humble enough to go, yeah, I can do this. But you're not bragging and being the best of it. No. I can do this. Yes, Nick's right. Habit and consistency is the key. But you have to believe that you can do this. You have to be able to take everything around you based on you being a part of a community. Let me say that again, based on you being a part of a community, because it's good when you're cheering for yourself, and you should, but it's better when you're cheering for yourself and you have other persons around you cheering for you. So it's good when you take that confidence and you keep pushing. You have to understand that you celebrate your wins, your small wins, your concepts you understood, the interviews you went to, if you went to a final round. And yes, it's hard to put all the work in and nothing comes out of it. But you have to learn how to celebrate it. This is why, again, for me, community was important, because I got to a place of, I knew exactly how much money it would take to go to welding school. And I knew exactly how long it would take for me to get ready to make enough money to do what I need to do. But my community stepped in and go, yeah, no, we're not doing that. You're still going to do this. Make sense? What else I got? I have nothing else on this topic because I'm done. I think we covered the time.
It was great. Oh, it was great, Nerando. It was also we are also on time. It's perfect.
Yeah,
Perfect timing and things. I really loved these tips. I agree with basically all of them. Didn't want to interrupt you every 10 seconds.
No,
I agree.
You're good.
But it's it's great point of view, and many things. I agree basically with everything. And yes. Do you want to say some final words just for someone who is here in the chat? Maybe they are on a job hunt. I would like to dedicate this event, especially to these people, because getting a job, especially I think the first job is a bit hard.
Oh Jesus, that first job was brutal. All right. If this is what you know you should be doing at this time in your life, you have to believe that it's possible. You have to be willing to put in the work. You have to work hard and smart. I believe in you, done, because I know what it feels like. So if this is something you believe that you want to do, I believe in you. I want you to understand that if you give up, you'll never get it. I want you to keep the lights on. So whatever you have to do to keep living and doing what you do, keep the lights on. I also know that you still have to put in the work. I need you to build a community. I need you to talk about it. I need you to go places and network how you can, when you can. If it's not physical, you do it online. Danny has one of the biggest channels ever to talk about and build and learn stuff. You listen to Taylor as he does his job hunt stuff. You pay attention to anybody in your sphere of hemisphere that speaks to career development, technical, and you learn and build. Again, it's hard. It's different. Keep learning, keep growing, keep building. Because at the end of the day, you're engineers and developers. All right? And be easy on yourself. Eat the ice cream. Eat the go sit down on the beach, go touch grass, go touch grass, go touch grass. I said it 3 times, right? Go touch grass and talk to your friends. All right?
Nice. Thank you so much, Nerando. It was really amazing. If you can stay a bit more at the end, I'll invite you again. Otherwise, thank you so much for sharing so many cool tips. It was also fun for me because I stayed here with you, and hopefully see you again. I don't know if we'll make it this year, but yeah.
If Render's gonna come and we can't have dinner. Next we can have. I'm a rum and raisin guy, strawberry cheesecake ice cream guy, and a guy. So if that's what we want to do, we gonna do that. We can probably have dinner. So if you're in the city, I'm in the city, and dinner is going around, I'll probably jump on the crew and sit down and have dinner. We sit down and talk.
Perfect. So everything is on record now. So in that case, thank you so much, Nerando.
I'm a friend.
Yeah, thank you so much. And I see that Dan is not there, so maybe I'll wait. If you want to stay one more minute.
Come on, Danny. We're waiting on you.
Back, we're great. In the meanwhile, you can share your favorite ice cream flavor since we're here.
Ooh, Lord. So I'm a food person. So there is no such thing as a favorite. There is the favorite. So I got my default go-to living in the States is strawberry cheesecake. But when I go to Jamaica, there's a place in Kingston called Devon House Ice Cream. They serve an ice cream called Dragon Stout, which is a stout-based ice cream. And then they have a mango ice cream that they take from mangoes on the island. Oh, phenomenal.
Nice.
So,
and
yeah.
Next one, it will be cooking skills, of course, or foodie skills.
Cooking? I
Nice.
mean, cooking skills is a lot. It's a lot. Is Danny coming back, or we're gonna switch to something else?
Let me invite Danny for 1 minute, and then I'll move it. Are you ready, Danny? 3, 2, 1. Danny is on stage.
I've been here the entire time. I don't know what y'all are talking about, but anyway.
Hey Danny, Danny, we need to try Korean fried chicken. You need to talk to me about it. I'm dead serious.
Hey, fried chicken. That I may know a thing or two about
Korean fried chicken.
Oh, Korean. That's a little out of my wheelwork. I will say though, I eat a lot of it, but I haven't cooked it myself yet.
Yes, I'm wondering if someone they join now the live stream say, is this like the right area that we have, or what is this? But yeah, always great to make these sort of things. Nerando, bye. I want to leave some space for Danny, and if you want to still wait here at the end, I'll invite you again. Thank you.
All right. Later.
Thank you. So now one person who probably doesn't need much presentation. Danny, we've known each other for 4 years now.
Yeah.
More than 4, close to 4 years. I saw your evolution. Also, last presentation at that conference was I think the best presentation I ever saw, and I saw many, I would say. You introduced me in my first live stream, my first webinar, so it's always strange for me to introduce you again. So Danny is a person who is really has an energy which is really top notch. I always loved this. It always puts heart and everything else when he does something, and we can all say this. We can all agree with this. And today with Danny, we talk about how to get a job in tech, and you have heard some parts, so we should drop some tips. But I would really like to make this conversation useful, because it really blows my mind that here with like a webinar from internet, we can give you a real chance to get a job. this blows my mind because, for example, for me, when I got my first job in tech, it was not like this. I did everything on my own, so I know what does it mean to do this all on your own. So then I would like, first of all, to introduce yourself, and then we'll start having a good conversation. Of course, don't be shy. Drop your questions in the chat so we can start like answering all of them. Danny, stage is yours.
Yeah, you know, normally I try to skip the intro, but I just asked in the chat if there's anyone that doesn't know me, and someone says they don't. So to give you a very quick background, you know, I spent over 11 years of my life, almost 11 years of my life, frying chicken in a gas station. I learned how to code. It completely changed my life. From there, I've worked in, I mean, all, you know, top tier organizations, Front Door, AutoZone, where I'm currently at, Google, you know, et cetera. Fortune 500 or that size is normally what I aim for. And I've helped thousands of beginners do the exact same thing now. To give you an idea, even right now, as we speak, I just announced it yesterday, we're doing our next session of cohorts, and the cohorts we do are 100% free. And so we actually pair beginners on teams where they work on a project together, being guided by a professional developer. But it's for our local community, you know. I've held meetups all over the world. I've built communities all over the world. A community I'm in now, we're doing this, and so I'm kind of excited to see all the people that were able to help, you know, land jobs out of this. That's always a big one. But I've kind of figured out, for the most part, the job markets, I help people get jobs. I help them position themselves. I do a lot of one-on-one calls. To be honest with you, now more than ever, I've gotten calls not from juniors, but like prime example yesterday. Well, yesterday and the day before. Yesterday, dev, 3 years experience, can't land an interview, right? Or the call that I did on Saturday, 10 years of experience, can't land an interview. But it becomes extremely obvious to me as soon as I jump on the call why they can't land that interview, right? I'm literally looking at their stuff. And I think one thing a lot of people aren't thinking about is this is the first time, I think, in ever, that this has not been a developer's market. Where before, you know, if you just coughed and the cough sounded like the word JavaScript, people had job interviews for you, right? But now there's so many people out there that people aren't necessarily thinking about how did they stand out from the process. They don't think about how to describe the impact of what they've done within a role. They don't think about how to set themselves up for success in the interview process. Like for me, my strategies have always come down, how does my resume, my portfolio site, my LinkedIn, my networking, my referrals, how do they set me up before I'm in the conversation? And how do they set me up for success once I'm in the conversation? A lot of people aren't thinking about that. When they do their resume, they just think of it like a checklist item that they got to knock out. Like this is a pain of a process they got to deal with, but they're not thinking about what tool this could actually be utilized for. And it's not just necessarily an item that you have to have, but to be honest, when you think about your resume in particular, you need to be thinking about it from the perspective of someone within this hiring process is going to be looking at this. What am I saying about myself that really makes me stand out? And almost every single time I talk to somebody where like, my LinkedIn is great, my resume is great, my portfolio side is great, my projects are great, but nobody's hiring juniors. Almost every single time I see that, it takes less than 60 seconds to realize none of this is great. And so they often don't think about it in the right perspective. So that has been my focus for like the last couple of years, helping people realize what they're lacking in the process to kind of make them stand out in the right way.
Yes, and usually, I think, I don't know, usually you think that you're doing something great only when you're really at the beginning. I remember my first video say, oh, this is very well edited. It was probably the worst video I ever edited in my life, but I didn't have the knowledge to say, this is crap. Because I say, okay, this is I didn't have any, I couldn't, so probably this is probably one of the issues. And of course, we're trying this to try to help you, of course. Then I would like to ask you, of course, here we're trying to give the generic tips. Like, what do you think are the things that you keep saying wrong, like on when people are trying to get a job? Is this something like which is, I don't know, you know, it's like the doctor. I already know that it's that. Like I already know where to look. Where do you look when there is someone who has these issues?
I think the strategies that they're utilizing are often wrong. A prime example, I used the call from yesterday, right? I was looking at their LinkedIn. There's nothing there, right? And so the way that I always talk about this is the reason why I say LinkedIn in particular is not I'm just some LinkedIn shill, but I think it's one of the most underutilized tools that software developers don't use, which they should be using. Because think about this. when you land in a job search, that means there's somebody from a hiring perspective that are entering terms that you popped up for, and they're trying to place someone in a seat. The only way, now to give you an idea, on an average week, I don't have any of the job search turned on. Like, I'm not searching for a job, et cetera, but I still landed about 2,000 to 3,000 jobs a week, right? Job searches. The only way 2,000 to 3,000 companies would know I exist is if I literally went out of my way and applied to 2,000 or 3,000 places. Now, of that, roughly 10 to 15% end up translating over to DMs. That gets me in more meaningful conversations with the right people that get to decide who's sitting in these seats. If you're not thinking about that, you're really doing yourself a very large disservice there. The other thing is, how many juniors do I talk to that don't even have a project worth talking about? Like, they follow these YouTube tutorials, and there's nothing wrong with a YouTube tutorial to utilize to learn from. But you need to also understand, every single developer that you talk to within the hiring process, they see the same tutorials. And so when you come in there with another movie database application talking about this is the best thing that I ever built, they know all about that. So they don't ever end up asking you follow-up questions. They don't really dive in deep. And so because of that, you kind of put yourself at a disservice within the hiring process. Or here's the other thing. If I were to literally jump on a call with somebody and be like, I'm going to analyze why you're not getting a job right now. And if the first thing out of your mouth is immediately like, well, this is not done yet, and I'm still working on, why aren't you set up to start talking about this stuff? Why is the first thing out of your mouth, oh, this isn't complete yet, and I'm still working on this? That should not be in the conversation at all. You have your entire life to set everything up the way you needed to before you start applying for jobs. Have your at least some items ready to go to talk about. I shouldn't be finding objections right away, because if you can find the objections, so can they.
Yeah. And for example, as I've been a recruiter for a period, and the things that really drove me nuts were like when someone had like broken links, like on the like they send you a link which is broken on some portfolio. This is something that say like it makes me really hard to put me like in a good condition to have like a good conversation with the person. And you also usually you mention, for example, like about typos, for example, or like the basic stuff, and it seems weird, but I think it's very important to start from there. What about like this basic setup, I would say?
Basic setup in which regard?
Yeah. You mean like setting up, I don't know, your profiles or maybe your CV. So what you are like the basic steps.
Yeah. So I think if you are trying to get a job, especially in today's market, you need to have a resume. You have to have a LinkedIn profile. I don't care where you are in the world. You have to have a LinkedIn profile. I think you do need a portfolio site. And to be honest with you, a lot of people mess up the portfolio site and they don't even realize it. And it drives me nuts. And I'm actually like in the process of trying to make a new video for this, because I see this mistake over and over and over again. Your portfolio site is not just a place where you put your projects. Like, let's just get that out of the way, right? A lot of beginners, and to be honest with you, you don't really need a portfolio site past mid-level dev as far as I'm concerned. But if you're mid-level and below, you need a portfolio site. Now, what is the thing with the portfolio site? You're controlling the path that this person is taking to get information about you. So why is your immediate thought to just throw up a bunch of icons of the languages that you know, to have a little immediate scrolling section, and then just hosting all your projects? If that's the case, just give me the GitHub, right? There's no point to the portfolio site. You haven't helped convert them. You haven't gotten them interested in you. They don't care about you. What if instead, since they're already landing on your site, you have your hero section, which has your call to action, which should be something like, here's my resume, let's set up a call, something along those lines, right? And as they're scrolling down to get to the section of your work, they're passing by all these images of you at meetups, you helping out a charity, you doing some volunteer work, you giving back, you writing some code, you part of a hackathon, you part of a student association, you part of a local organization or a boot camp. They see all these other images about you. Then they get to your work. Look at how different that path is. It's such a subtle tweak. I tweet so much that I tweet. Like such a subtle tweak that it tells them the story about who you are, what you're about, all this additional information and items that you're doing outside of just your position. That's what really goes. These things should be taught in college. Here's the thing, though. And this is what I tell people all the time. I speak at a lot of colleges. You know why it's not taught in colleges? Because if they already knew this, they wouldn't be teaching at a college. They wouldn't be teaching at the college. They'd be having a job somewhere in the industry, right? So they don't know a lot of these things. They know the technical merits and items like that. But the reality is, a lot of this stuff isn't taught because it's not really known or thought about. And to be honest, this is, again, like I said, this is the first time we've been in a developer's market. We're not in a developer's market. Previously, like 2021, for example, you could have had the absolute bare minimum and companies were throwing interviews at you. So right now, a lot of developers are completely confused because they're like, why aren't companies fighting over me the way they were pre-pandemic or in the middle of the beginning part of the pandemic? Why has everything changed so drastically? And even the call notes for the call that I jumped on yesterday, person said, 2 years ago, I had companies fighting for me. Now I can't even get them on the phone. But it's like when you had the bare minimum, they were still willing to overlook a lot of this stuff. But right now, they're like, I've got more developers than I can count that are fighting for my attention. So why should I give you my attention? You need to give me the reasoning for that.
Yeah, and I think that there are periods we will see, but I think that this trend, this is the trend. But I think that it is still a hope. Like even if there are maybe I don't want to say less chances, but I say maybe. I think we all sort of agree that maybe it's harder to find a job, but of course not impossible. But maybe this is why you say, as you said, like it's even more important now to get the right tips, right? If you have any question, just drop it. And Danny, so how what do you think is the way to approach, for example, the interview? Let's say, for example, especially I think for people who are getting started in the interview. For example, I failed my first interview, for example, because there was not you like giving me tips. So what would be like some tips for you make your first or second interview?
Hey, baby, I'm telling you right now, I failed so many interviews, even with my tips, okay? So don't think that every interview I go into, no, I failed some good ones. And here's the same advice I gave somebody literally on the call yesterday. If you know that you're about to fail this interview, bomb it with style. Literally, just start throwing anything out there. You already know it's over with, but maybe you could throw something against the wall and that sticks, right? Try something new and gauge the reaction, because at least then it's a feedback loop that you can utilize for future interviews, right? I always say, if the interview is unsuccessful, did you at least learn something from it? Did you get something from it? Did you even audit where the interview was probably going downwards, and how are you going to adjust that for future interviews? That's something to think about. But yeah, I have no problem losing bad in an interview. I've got some real bad interview. Matter of fact, I've told the story before, but I'll tell it again. This is like the first interview that I ever had. I'd been learning the code. It might have been like 2.5 months, right? And I was going to all these meetups, and everybody talked about like you should get a job in 90 days, 90 days. Everywhere online, I heard it. Everywhere in person, I heard it. 90 days, 90 days to become a dev. I see all these boot camps talking about 90 days. So I'm like, I'm almost at the 90-day mark, right? Now, mind you, at this time, I was still like just only on free code camp. I knew what HTML, CSS. I barely knew what an array was, right? Like brand new to JavaScript. I'd just literally been learning JavaScript maybe a week or two, right? But I felt like I knew everything there was to know about coding at that point. Like I felt like I knew everything. And I get on this interview, and obviously this is like before Zoom was like a household name and all that, right? So I jump on this phone interview, and I'm super excited. I run home from the gas station. I even dress in a suit. I'm like, they can't see me, but the mindset, right? Like you want to dress for the part that you want instead of the part that you have. So I'm like, I'm nervous. I'm sweating. It's even like winter time, but I'm sweating, right? Like I'm so nervous. And I'm already thinking of like certain things, like, to say like, oh, if they ask me this, I'm going to say this. And if they ask me that, I'm ready. And so I jump on this call within the first couple minutes. They're like, all right, tell me about yourself. And I tell them about myself. And I'm like, yeah, I nailed that. That went great. And like, all right, Daniel, so like, do you know JavaScript? I was like, yeah, I know JavaScript. I'm actually making a project right now with HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and it's doing this, la, la, la. And as soon as I finished answering that, I was like, whew, I felt like I killed that. And like, oh, I got that. But like, do you know React? And I was like, React? Happy, sad, mad? What are we talking about? I was so new to JavaScript, I never even knew what a framework was. I didn't know what a library was. None of that was even in my radar or vocabulary. And so I instantly heard this person smiling on the phone to like, oh, you don't know anything. Like it became very obvious that this hour-long call turned into 5 minutes and they were gone. But the good thing about that was it taught me so much of what I lacked to be marketable within this industry. And I think a lot of people are afraid of that. To be honest, I feel like a lot of people want to be told everything is perfect so that way they don't have to make any adjustments. But the reality is, for the vast majority, that isn't the case. And so you need to make the adjustments to really be marketable, because right now, more than ever before, there are more developers doing what you want to do. And so you need to really, really, really dive deep into your skill set and give them enough proof that you know what you say that you know, and that if you were to get a job, especially your first job in tech, much less any job, but if you were to get a job, your onboarding process would be significantly lower than a lot of others. So that way they're more likely to take the chance to actually bring you on there. But as far as like the process and the interview style goes, the one of the first things that I tell people to do is, if you know that you're going to interview with the company, you need to hit their website, go to their About Me section, all that good stuff, and their social media pages. This is the information they want the public to know. And almost every company has like their mission statement or their principles, etc. You need to work that into the conversation, especially if it's something that you identify with. That's a real big win right there, because one of my first jobs in tech, they had just given several $1 million to a charity that I identified with, that like was near and dear to my heart. I'm very big on volunteering. I still volunteer regularly to this day. And so I brought that up in the interview. Like, I love the fact that you gave XYZ this amount of money. This is a charity that I've actually spent a lot of time volunteering at in the past. Why did you choose this charity? And spent 10 minutes in the interview just talking about that. And I remember after getting the job, my interviewer said, no one brought up anything within our social media pages or our company page. And that made you stand out immediately right away compared to a lot of the candidates. So I would go through that and start figuring out what's important there that they want the public to know, and just bring that up in the conversation as well.
Yes, I agree. And I think it is absolutely underrated, but can really, give you that precious minutes that can also, let's say, go in your favor at that point. And you also showcase, I think, so many things at some point, because you also show that you have interest, that you're not just doing like coding tests and so on. And I think that most of the people, they are looking for, as you said, something that makes you really stand out. Like, only you made this, and this is what really can say, okay, so this might be the right fit for us.
There's a couple of comments that I see here in the chat that I kind of want to address. One says, I'm building a portfolio site. Can you quickly tell me what things to include? And the other one says, I'm bringing back schemorphisms designs on my portfolio. Two things. Number one, when it comes to designs, and I actually had to say this to somebody, and I'll use them as an example here. They jumped on a call with me. This was many months ago. And in that call, we were talking about their portfolio website. And to me, I was like, this is one of the coolest websites I've ever seen. It's like a comic book theme. And like every time you scroll, it's like a comic book page is turning. I'm like, this is so cool from a developer perspective. From a business perspective, this is a literal nightmare. Think about this. The average person, and the very first line of hiring, mind you, is someone who is a corporate recruiter, someone in HR, etc., right? It's not necessarily someone from a strong technical background. They don't know the difference between React and Angular, Java and C#. They're just given a job description because their specialty is finding people and basically funneling out other candidates. If you're not setting yourself up in a way that a non-technical person can appreciate your achievements and understand your impact, you've already lost the hiring process, because they're interview number one. Then what do? They take notes and they pass a recommendation. And then the person who's over interview number two reads those notes and reads that recommendation or lack thereof, and then decides whether or not they're going to interview you. If you're not killing it with interview number one with a non-technical perspective, you've already lost. And so when you bring in these cool designs, maybe from a developer perspective, business individuals do not always connect with that. And so if you're bringing something that is really cool, funky, and weird, you may have just lost there just because you wanted to be different. So you need to think about that. Maybe having a portfolio site that you share with other devs versus a portfolio site that you share with other business individuals, that may be a way to do that. But I would personally really think about, because think about it, majority of the companies that you're going to work for, they have some kind of business that interacts with customers. They want to know that you have the design sense, at least, to say, hey, I'm interacting with other users. Here's how I'm looking at, setting myself up for that, essentially, right? So now when it comes to building a portfolio site, what are some things that you could do that could build a good portfolio site? Is domain name necessary? I mean, it definitely helps. I don't think anyone's going to look at it and be like, oh, this person is using, Railway here, I can't believe, or Vercel or Netlify. But I would say professionalism, it's $10, right? Like, I know in some parts of the world, $10 may be a lot. But if you think about it, that's $10 that you're going to have forever, right? So I don't necessarily think in the grand scheme of things that should be a deterrent. A Udemy course is $10, right? So it's going to be within that same level. Like, you get a course that you may or may not get a ton of value out of, or you get a domain name that really speaks to your professionalism, but also it goes into your branding. Your domain name should be something that's easy to remember, easy to say. And if I were to tell you that domain name, it's easy for you to type in. And if you can do all three of those, that's a killer domain name for a personal brand. Like, my domain name right now is dthompsondev.com. And right now I pulled down the old site because I was putting up a new one. I thought it was going to be a couple hours, and then Twitter let me know right away, like, my design skills suck. So I was like, okay, let me redo this. And the new design is actually coming out really, really nice. So that one should be the new site that's going up probably within the next week. But easy to say, easy to read. And if you know who I am, it's easy to follow up with. So it kind of goes into the branding. When it goes to a good portfolio site, certain things that I say is, remember one big thing: no one owes you the time to check out your projects. So you need to incentivize them and make it very compelling for them to check it out right away. So sometimes still images aren't the best way to do that. Sometimes a GIF or GIF, whatever side of the debate you're on that one, is the thing that you want to kind of have there. I also believe you should have descriptions of your projects, and not just a description saying this project is a movie database. Nobody cares about that. What problem does it solve? What solution did you create? And how did you deliver it? If you write that for all your projects, you're going to have a lot more people checking it out in a way more meaningful way, almost like unofficial case studies for all of them. And your projects should solve problems and deliver solutions, because that's what's going to give you an edge to talk about within the technical interview. That's going to give you an edge to talk about with non-technical people alike. But it also showcases the one thing that most junior devs forget about. You're not there to talk about that you memorized a bunch of React code and you're writing it out. You're there because you're a problem solver. That's why this industry pays so much. That's why developers get what they get. Companies have problems, and your solution can literally directly affect the bottom line of that business. You want to showcase that you're a problem solver. And if you do that, you're going to find a paycheck with your name on it. I can almost guarantee it.
Thank you so much. Then you also made a poll now GIF versus GIF, so be sure to reply, of course. And yes, so thank you so much. Then I think that 25 minutes it's very hard for you to make it fit in this short amount of time. It really flew super quick. So I want to invite Bekah. So we try to stick on time. Thank you so much for joining. We'll meet again in Render ATL. I also want to convince my girlfriend to open a LinkedIn account now that she graduated, so I'll try my best.
There you go. Tell her.
Nice. Nice. Thank you. And of course, thank you for the tips. Then see you soon, and keep crushing it. You are doing amazing for the dev community. Really appreciate it. And yeah, let's keep going. It's amazing.
Oh, one last call out.
Yeah.
If you haven't already, I've got a Discord, the Commit Your Code Discord. We have almost 13,000 developers in there from all over the world. Highly recommend it. If you're trying to get a job or you want to support others or answer questions, check it out.
Yes, there is a link in the description for Danny, but I will also find and share it in the chat soon. So stay with us, because you can join the Danny's Discord community. Thank you so much, Danny, and best of luck with everything, of course. See you in a couple of months, 3-4 months. Okay, bye. Nice. Okay, nice. We're almost at the end of this episode of the Monthly Dev. I want to invite on stage Bekah. I'll try to pronounce your name correctly. Bekah Hawrot Weigel. I don't know how was it.
You did a pretty good job.
Nice. So Bekah, thank you, and thank you so much for waiting, for your patience. And please introduce yourself and give us a sneak peek of your presentation.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Bekah Hawrot Weigel, and I'll talk a little bit about my background in a second, but I'm the developer experience lead at OpenSauce. I'm also a career changer, and I'm really happy to be here. So thanks for having me.
Nice. Thank you. Thank you so much. And I also saw that you have been in DevRel for a while, right?
Well, it depends on what you think of as a while. So I have been in tech for about 5 years. I spent about the first year and a half doing front end work, and then I did community for about a year and a half, and now I'm in developer experience lead. But I think I started a community in 2020 called Virtual Coffee. And so I think that all of those skills kind of work together for DevRel. And with my background as a teacher, it just kind of makes sense to kind of categorize those skills as DevRel.
Nice, nice. And today the presentation is core strength, building a strong foundation for your job hunt. So we can end in this way. And Bekah, best of luck. I'll stay in the chat, and at the end we'll have a short Q&A session. Okay. Thank you so much.
Awesome.
And
Thank you
best
so
of luck.
much. Thanks.
Bye.
So I know we're running a little bit behind, so I'm going to try and make up for a little bit of that time. I might be skimming through some things, but if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll make sure that I answer them in some way or another. One thing that I wanted to start with before I even jump into this talk is Danny Thompson talked about this idea of if you're in an interview and you feel like you're failing, kind of go big, right? Go big or go home. And so I wanted to share this story that I recently heard. There is a figure skater who was really good, and I can't remember who it is. So if you know who it is, please put that in the chat because I want to recognize them. But she was skating and she didn't land one of her tricks, right? And so she knew she was not going to get a medal because she messed up. So you're not allowed to do a backflip in figure skating. And my understanding is that the issue with not being able to do a backflip is, one, it's dangerous. So they kind of outlawed it or banned it or whatever. And the second is they believed in figure skating that you should have to land your tricks on one foot and that it was impossible to land a backflip on one foot. And so she just went for it. And she landed that backflip on one foot. And then it just became like this moment in history that awed everyone. So even though she didn't medal because she did something that she wasn't supposed to do, that was a lasting memory that she made for everybody that was there. Okay. And that just kind of changed the way that we view things there. So I just want to say that, those are the stories that get passed along. So even if you don't make it in an interview, even if you feel like you're doing a really bad job, that moment where you make yourself remembered is something that people are going to carry with them throughout the rest of your networking or your job hunt. And that's something that they might pass on to someone else. So I would definitely check out, or just keep that in mind, that you have opportunities with every sentence that you speak to make a lasting memory. And this is kind of what the talk is about here. So I'm going to jump into it now. Let's go. So a little bit more about me. Like I said, I am a career changer and I'm the developer experience lead at OpenSauce. I've also started the virtual coffee community, and I have 4 kids. And a lot of my story, which I'm not going to tell today, comes from a trauma that I went through when I gave birth to my 4th kid. And it kind of caused me to rethink all of the things that I thought were constants in my life. So I had taught college English for 10 years, and it wasn't working for me after going through that anymore. And so I moved into tech. And I want to talk a little bit about my experience building community. So when I had my first job in tech, I landed it right after boot camp. So I went to a boot camp, landed my first job. I was about 9 months in, and those first 6 months, I just felt like I was floundering. Like, I don't know anything. I don't understand why I've been hired. When am I going to be fired? Because clearly I'm not cut out for this. And then from month 6 to 9, I was like, okay, you know what? Like, we've got a good communication flow going on. I understand what's happening. And this is all starting to feel normal and good. And then the pandemic hit. And so the day that I went to go pick up my kids' books from school, I lost my job. And so what I found was I was really job searching for the first time, because when I got my previous job, I put a tweet out there, and I had been documenting my entire journey into tech on Twitter and in my blog. And so I had this like record of that. And somebody in my network retweeted me. And then it connected with the person who eventually hired me. And we had a conversation. And that conversation went really well. And he said, well, I don't really need to test your skills. You know, I've been looking to mentor a junior developer. It seems like a really good fit for me if it's a good fit for you. I was like, well, sure, it's a good fit for me. So I didn't really have experience interviewing. And so now I was stuck in the pandemic with all of my kids home, and I was really job searching for the first time ever. And I found that I was really, really frustrated, and I didn't know what to expect. There was I made it to the final round of an interview, and then the founder of the startup, based on what I was asking to receive for my hourly wage, told me that I was overvaluing myself, and she had reached out to her friends and that I wasn't worth that much money. So I needed to decrease the amount that I was asking for. Like, is this normal? Is this what usually happens? Because this is about what I was making before. And then I had a number of interviews where they said, hey, you know what? We're freezing hiring right now. So I know a lot of us went through that back in 2020. And so I was feeling like really distressed. And so I put it out there and I said, hey, does anyone want to meet up for virtual coffee? And we started virtual coffee. Initially, I was doing it once a week. And then people were like, well, why can't we do it twice a week? I'm like, I don't know. I guess we can do it twice a week. So I was doing double sessions on a Thursday. And I finally thought, like, well, this is not sustainable because I'm an introvert and I'm exhausted and don't want to do anything the rest of the day. So maybe we need to branch this out and space it out a little bit. And so we've been doing it from April of 2020 up until now. And we've done a bunch of things as we've gone through there. So we have a podcast, we have a newsletter, we meet multiple times a week, we have small interest groups. And I'm not trying to pitch you virtual coffee, but what I'm trying to say is through this experience, I was able to meet with and understand so many different perspectives in tech. And I was privileged to have the stories of so many different people. So many of those people are out there. They've been searching for jobs. They've gone through the job search, and I see and understand that frustration. And so all of these things I think are super important to be able to understand that everybody's experience is going to be different, but there are things that you can do to make more connections and maybe to take yourself further in that experience. So why does being remembered matter? Well, what I've learned is that we're all going through journeys of our own lives, like I've said. And when we share our stories, we connect with others in really meaningful ways. And that allows room for trust, growth, collaboration. But most of all, I think that it's important to emphasize, as humans, we are actually built for storytelling. So, in fact, if we look at this from a neuroscience perspective, storytelling is effective for two reasons. Number one, we're hardwired to respond to storytelling. So our brains light up when we hear stories, and that creates connections that we need to remember the stories and the people telling the stories. And then also oxytocin, which is a neurochemical that helps us to feel connected to other people, is released when we hear and we connect to those stories. Now, without getting too much into the science of things, the neurons in our brains are activated when we relate to a story. So neurons share messages throughout the brain using electrical and chemical signals. So in short, they're the messengers of the nervous system. Beyond this, this is how our brains connect our stories to help us remember those stories and to help people remember us. So to be a good storyteller, you also have to have good stories to tell. And I think a key part of achieving that is having good core skills. So core interpersonal skills like listening, communication, and problem solving all help us to connect with other people, and they enhance our credibility when we're talking to other people. So here are the core skills that we're going to talk about today. So first of all, communication. This is how we convey our information, our ideas, or feelings that we have. But we need to do it in a way that is clear and understandable. And so this is both verbal and nonverbal, but I'm only going to talk about verbal today. Problem solving means identifying, analyzing, and resolving any issues or obstacles by applying logical thinking, creativity, and decision making. Listening is the active process. I'm going to say that again, the active process of receiving, understanding, and responding to verbal or nonverbal messages. And as part of this, it allows us to show empathy and comprehension and compassion instead of immediately jumping into respond or to judgment. And then lastly, I think that the one that ties them all together, of course, is storytelling. So this is how we convey events, messages, narratives in a way that's engaging and allows people to remember us. All right, so I'm going to go through each of these. So communication, this is when we effectively communicate. That can be in a blog post, on social media, during an interview with someone in your network. We're not only building our credibility, but we're also showing that we care and respect other people's times. So when we communicate effectively, it allows us as job seekers to clearly share your thoughts, your qualifications, your experiences, and that can be whether it's in an interview, your resume, or your cover letter. So this type of clarity helps potential employers to see why you would be good at a role. It also helps us to build relationships. So strong communication skills are better for networking, which allows you to build those relationships with other people, and that's potential employers, with your peers, and can do things like lead to job referrals or opportunities for collaboration. So when we problem solve, we are showing that we're able to think deeply about the issues, okay? So that you have tenacity, that you have grit, like Nerando talked about earlier, and that you're not going to need an intense amount of support and mentorship. That doesn't mean that you can't have those things, but the more that you can do on your own, the easier it's going to be for a company to hire you. So employers often value candidates who demonstrate the ability to take on hard or complex problems, to adapt to situations or challenges. And problem solving shows that you can think critically and come up with solutions and work in a fast-paced environment. It also shows that you can be efficient with your time, capable of improving processes, products, services, and this ability allows us to set ourselves apart from other people. Now, listening, this is a huge part of it. And I think that we don't talk enough about core skills because we think about, well, as an interviewee, I'm not listening, I'm just answering, right? But I think that it's really, really important to also talk about listening. So if you haven't read the book, Never Split the Difference by Chris Voss, I think it's a really good one to read, especially if you're interviewing and if you're in salary negotiations as well. But Chris Voss is a former FBI hostage negotiator, and he writes a lot about listening. And so the important part here, the thing to take away is that you don't need to respond to the conversation first. You need to listen to understand. When we listen, that creates connections. So when someone knows that you're actively listening to them, that builds trust and opens the conversation to honesty and vulnerability. If someone doesn't seem like they're listening, you're going to be less likely to follow up with a question or to care about the answers that they have. Innovators also listen to other people. So if you are interested in being an innovator or showing that you can innovate, then you also want to demonstrate your good listening skills. People learn from other people's stories. They learn from their own stories. Leaders learn from other people's stories. So when someone feels seen and heard, they're more likely to be in your corner, to feel connected to you, to be motivated, to trust you, and to work through conflict. So this allows you to better understand people's needs, to receive and accept feedback, to give feedback, and to be a good collaborator. And lastly, storytelling. Okay, so storytelling humanizes us. We're not just another coworker, a support person. We are a complex human being. And so storytelling helps us to connect to others that we see as different than us. So if you're in an interview, then that person across the room might seem like someone that is different than you. So how do you form that connection? How do you get them to remember you? Okay, so being able to tell your story, this is ideal for working together. It's ideal for working through human conflict and to understand when you disagree things. One of my favorite interviews of all time, I was meeting with somebody who would be my coworker. We met for about an hour and we disagreed the entire time we met. So for an hour, we disagreed, but it was the best interview because we were able to show that we could listen to each other, that we were willing to understand other ideas and approaches, and that we could work together even if we disagreed. So overcoming the challenge, that's what storytelling is all about. And when you have the capabilities to tell a story, that becomes your opportunity to connect with the interviewer. Sorry. So sharing your stories shows your own credibility and it connects you to your interviewer. So we need to network with purpose as part of this. So what if your core skills could attract the right opportunities to you instead of having to chase them? So I think that it's important to remember that you're not just making conversations, you are attracting opportunities. So imagine being remembered for the insightful questions that you asked. You might be asking that in an interview about the latest project. You're asking an engineer about what they're working on. It might be the creative solution that you propose to a code challenge, and that showcases problem solving. You might tell a captivating story of how you got involved in a community and you were able to grow through that experience. And through active listening, you can understand the interviewer or the person that you're networking with. You can understand what their needs are, what their goals are, and you can spark genuine conversation that leads a lasting impression and opens doors to new possibilities. I do see that in the chat, someone says, as an introvert, I always find my stories aren't worth talking about. And I think that's one of those things that we need to overcome. And I think that if you look at it from a different perspective, then you can understand how to craft it in an interesting way. I would also say that I am an introvert, but I will say that everything that I'm talking about today, that's a skill. And that means that you can get better at it the more that you practice. So don't discount all of your stories right now, but we'll think about how we can grow in our storytelling ability and what can be an impactful story. Okay, so we also want to stand out in what we're doing. And so as part of this is kind of like what we're talking about here in the chat, that you want to create a type of elevator pitch that showcases your unique value. Your story is not the same as anybody else's story. So you need to think about the things that set you apart, that make you, it doesn't even have to seem interesting. Where have you overcome? And I will say that research shows us that there's a reason why underdog stories are the ones that are really interesting. We're always rooting for an underdog. And this is why it's good to tell stories of when you overcame a challenge, because the listener wants to connect with you. At the core, we almost always want other people that we're talking to succeed, right? Like we want to see that you overcame that and you were able to achieve what your goal was. And so start there. What is something that you've taken on that's been hard, and how were you able to move through that thing? All right, we're coming really close to time, so I want to get through a couple more things here. I think that it's always really important too to remember that there's a person on the other end of the communication. So communication is a tool for building relationships. So you have to find what works for you. Practicing is a huge part of this. Maybe you need to do some mock interviews. Maybe I really like to write out my answers to questions that I think I'll be asked first. So I have like a whole script before I go in an interview because it helps me feel confident and in control of my story. Sometimes it can be helpful to research a company and to understand their project so you can be prepared to talk about the things that are important to you. Okay, so I want to take a minute here to think about using your interview skills to do really well in an interview. Okay, so you're using good communication. So make sure that you're speaking clearly, concisely, and deliberately. So one time I was in an interview and the interviewer asked me a question and I said, if you don't mind, I'd like to take a minute or two to write down some of my thoughts, so I can organize them before I answer. And she said, I've never had anyone ask me to take a minute to organize their thoughts. And I want you to know that that's a strength. So go ahead and take that minute and organize yourself. I think that part of that was acknowledging that I respected the interviewer's time and that sometimes I need to think through complex questions before I answer them. It shows that I'm deliberate in my response. Make sure that you're also listening. So this is both about how you ask the questions and how the interviewer answers the question. So this is another opportunity to show that you value their time. So listen, not to respond, but to understand first. Problem solving and storytelling are going hand in hand again. So let's first talk about code challenges. If you're showcasing your code challenges, you can demonstrate your problem solving abilities by commenting on your code, by showing the paths that you went down, and being able to explain why you made that decision. And I think that's key here. So if you're telling a story, make sure you explain your why. And lastly, storytelling drives persuasion. So we know that connection allows us to be more persuasive. I'm more likely to believe my friend's review of a product than I am a stranger on the internet. In the job search, you want to convince them that you're the best person for the job. So how do you tell your persuasive story? I'm going to put my English teacher hat back on before we make it to the end of this. When I taught rhetorical argument, we talked about the concept of the rhetorical triangle. Okay, so this is based on Aristotle's teaching that you need to appeal to your audience in 3 primary planes: ethos, pathos, and logos. And so when you approach an argument in this way, you're more likely to convince your audience. Okay, so this is balanced into 3 parts. What we want to show is that we have credibility. We understand what we're talking about, that we've done our research and we can back that up. And we want to appeal to the emotions of the interviewer. Pathos gets you in the door and get you remembered. But if you want to close a deal, then you have to incorporate logos and ethos. So you want your interviewer to say, I would really like to work with that person. But the next part, that's most important part of the interview process, is because I think we'd work well together and they're super knowledgeable. So think about, how are you conveying your credibility? What have you accomplished that makes you worth trusting? How does your story create an emotional bond with your listener? What proof are you offering them as you try to convince them that following the process in this particular way is the best way to accomplish the goal? That's where your job hunt story is. So here's a slide. I know that we don't have time to get to this, but this is a little bit about that all popular question of tell me about yourself, right? There's a different way to tell your story and to be able to connect with other people. So last thing I'll say is one of my favorite hobbies is weightlifting. And I think it's a good way to talk about developing core strength. If I go to the gym and I want to be able to lift heavier weights, I have to practice. So this year I'm trying to deadlift 270 pounds. If I don't practice that lift and the smaller lifts I need to build my stabilizing muscles, I'm not going to make that goal. But if I practice consistently, not just the one exercise, but all of the ones that I need to get me there, I have a chance at success. And it's the same thing here. Every day you have opportunities to practice every single thing I talked about today. Practice communication by sharing what you've learned or meeting a new person. Practice listening by putting down your phone and silencing your notifications when you're at a meetup or even with your family. Practice problem solving by learning something new or doing something harder than usual. I don't care if that means fixing your dishwasher that's been dead for the last year. That is a great story. And finally, learn how to tell your story so you can connect with others. Whoever tells the best story wins. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Bekah. And now everyone wants to know how much can you deadlift James Quick, especially.
I will deadlift James Quick next time we're at a conference together.
Yes. So thank you so much. It was a great presentation. Also, I come from the sports world, so all the analogies related to sports and gym and lifting weights, they are my favorite ones. Nice. Thank you. Let's go with a couple of questions, and then I want to also invite Nerando, who has been waiting in the backstage. So about referrals, most people hired by referral. Do you agree with this or not?
In my experience, no, but I would say that something that I always tell job seekers is your network is not just the people in your network, it's the network of your network. So the more you're able to connect with people, the more likely they are to recommend you. And that's if you're doing those things like showcasing all of those core skills, then it makes you a good and reliable person that they will be more likely to recommend. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that, but having that personal connection does give you a step ahead in the right direction.
Yes, thank you. And I think we have also a follow-up question, also always by language. Good presentation. Great. How to get referral for a specific company? Do you think that there is a way to get a specific referral?
Yeah, and I think it depends. I always like to be able to reach out to my network, but there's a difference between networking and building relationships with other people. And so if somebody drops into my DMs and they're like, "Hey, I want to work at Open Sauce," then I'm going to be like, "Hey, I don't know you or anything about you, so I don't know what to tell you. We're not hiring." But if somebody who I know is in my network, maybe somebody that's been going to virtual coffee for a while, that I know would do a really great job, then I'm more likely to recommend them because I have a relationship with that person and I understand that they would be good for the role. So I'm never going to recommend somebody that I don't believe is going to be good for the position, because if you're not, then that hurts my credibility. And so in order to do that, you have to build those connections. So I say, get out there, become part of communities. I know a lot of people think going to meetups is really great, but the other side of that is help other people. I think one of the fastest ways to connect with people is to help them. And where you're always a step ahead of somebody that just started today. So every single person out there can help somebody else. And so there's never a reason not to be able to help someone. It take 5 minutes out of your day.
Yes, and I think this is connected to what Nerando said before, that you should always foster your network, because if you just get someone in DMs just once every 2 years asking for a job, probably that case you reply that yes, as you said, you don't have enough information. It's not about, let's say, not being polite, but it's because we really don't know and we can't refer that. Of course, James is having a lot of fun in the chat, I will say. I think now we also had one question by James, which is like, how to practice confidence? Or is that a natural talent? Want to be the
I think
devil's
that's a
advocate?
really great question. And I think that it's important to emphasize that that is a skill. And so I really like that James brings up, how do you practice it? Because I think that we often feel like, oh, I don't have confidence, so I can't be confident. But that's not true. And I find that the more I understand something, the more confident I am. So, I talked about storytelling here. That's something that's in my wheelhouse. I taught college English for 10 years. And so that comes really natural to me. But a couple years ago, I gave a talk on TensorFlow.js, which was a pretty new technology to me. I had been working with it for about a year. And so I was very, very nervous doing that. So for me, that required doing probably more research than I ever needed to do for that specific talk, and then practicing it, but also asking questions of people. So if I was unsure, rather than just being unsure by myself and lacking that confidence, I would go out and I would say, like, hey, Gant Laborde is amazing and knows all of the things about TensorFlow.js. I have this question, what does this mean? And by being able to ask questions, I think that you're able to grow in confidence and to showcase that you're willing to be a problem solver, a good listener, and then ultimately learn how to communicate the things that you've learned. So practice, questions, and growing in a way that I think makes you uncomfortable is a really good sign that you're moving in the right direction.
Absolutely agree. The practice, the practice itself, it's what will make you more confident. I remember, for example, as a public speaker experience, once you make like 3, 4, 5, especially if you have like a lot of experience in a relatively short amount of time, you really boost your confidence in doing something, because I don't know, it's about understanding how you can even manage yourself, your feelings. Especially as an introvert, I am a strong introvert, so it's very, very important. But yes, it's not a talent. I made this. This is me from the Daily Dev account. But yeah, nice. Bekah, thank you so much. I really enjoyed this conversation. I would like to invite Nerando back, but I don't know if he has the camera on. I'm trying to invite him. Let's see. He's always ready. He's always ready, as you can see. Nice. So, yes, it was a great event, and also like the talks, they were connected each other. So I really love that. Sometimes we have these like similar topics, and for example, Nerando, what you said before, it's connected to what Bekah said now. Yes. Would you like to have some final words? If you want to leave a final message or for people who are here, of course, drop if you have a last minute question. If you want to just say something about the presentations, just let us know in the comments. Who would like to start?
Are you asking us if we have last minute comments?
Yes.
So I thought you were asking the viewers if they.
Yeah, that's what I thought too.
Yeah, both of you that are here, if you want to give a final message to people who are here, and then just to give people time if they want to make a last minute question.
I will say, like, one of the things that I have a keynote that I did on the power of storytelling, and one of the things I didn't cover here is that one of my favorite quotes is from somebody that was my educational advisor when I was in boot camp. And she said, Bekah, we don't tell our stories for ourselves. We tell our stories to invite other people to share theirs. And for me, that's always been really powerful and motivating. And so when you share your story, that humanizes you to any interviewer out there. And then that allows them to connect with you. So then they're able to tell their own story if they haven't. And then you have something that's going to get remembered. Okay. Remember, the neurons are going to fire, the neurochemicals are going to be transmitted, and their body is telling them, I need to remember this person. And ultimately, if you want to get a job, you need to be the candidate that's remembered during the interview.
Yes, and I see many comments about your storytelling, and I absolutely agree, and it's very, very important when we make a presentation. And sometimes in tech, it's not that easy, but we can still do a good job, I would say. Nice. Jason, by the way, you are late, by the way, but we'll forgive you. Nice. Thank you so much. So before we close this event, I would like just to give a final shout out to Daily Dev, if I can make it. So Daily Dev is what you see here. Is an app that you can use to stay up to date. And now we have also squads, communities, many features. I let you discover them. AI-powered search. Many things are coming up. We have a new shiny dev card. I absolutely recommend you. Let me showcase it. So basically you can see the stats of your Daily Dev account. We saw people sharing this. Kudos, of course, to all the team who have been working hard of this. You can even add these, customize many things. I let you discover all of these. Thank you so much. It was a great talks. And yes, so let me remove this again. Thank you. Yes. How far did you run? I think he's asking to Jason, but yeah.
See, Bekah is interesting because Bekah, see the whole community thing. Now I'm walking because of Bekah and Clark from that conf. I took it up. I just went for a walk. I'm doing a challenge that I get a physical medal. So your community is important.
Yes, absolutely. And to be honest, I always love when we make analogies with sport. We promote like moving more, exercising more. As I've been a volleyball coach for about 20 years before getting into tech. So for me, it's something that I really feel that I really think it's not important. It's like how it should be, and that's it. It's not just important, but
Nice.
yes, nice. We should make some fitness and exercise sessions at some point. So nice. Thank you again. We'll find all the links to follow them and find them. One last question is that I don't know if some of these presentations will be available, or you share it or not, or if you have some of them, we can add them in the description later. And nice.
Mine, I realized based on what I said, I'm gonna have to sit down and flesh it out. So you can just follow me. It should be up. Today's Tuesday. It should be up by Friday. So
Nice. So I'll share here if you wanted also to follow Nerando. Perfect. So feel free to drop also how much did you run. Yes, Jason, yes. Well, I don't own you a run, but we will do this together at Render ATL. You see, nice.
I'll drop my the links to my slides on Twitter. So and I can also send them over, so you can put it in the description. And if anybody's interested, I'm planning on dropping a newsletter or launching a newsletter that's all about telling your story. So if you're interested in learning how to tell the right story for you, follow me on Twitter.
nice.
Perfect. You know what to do. We left all the links below. Thank you so much. Now I think it's time for me to rest because the day also is over, or close to 7 p.m. here. Best of luck. I hope we will meet in person again in Nerando, and we'll meet maybe at some point, probably at some conference. There is the higher chance, Bekah,
Yep.
but it was really great. Nice. Thank you so much. And of course, if you want, just try daily.dev if you want. Perfect. We are done. Bye, everyone. And see you next month. I think the episode is on the 18th of March. Bye, everyone. Thank you. Bye-bye.